Hi, Dawn Lewis here, and it's day 4 of this 7-part series featuring the beautiful painted rose stamp and die sets from Concord and Ninth, which you can find in Australia at dawnlewis.com.au. Now, today's technique, I'm showing you some distress ink dipping using some distress ink minis, a mini mister spray, some watercolour paper, Ranger Archival Jet Black ink, and there's some perfect pearls in there as well. I'm using the mini ink pads today, and you can see the colours I'm using there: abandoned coral, festive berries, candied apples. The full-size ink pads will do the same job. I've put a little perfect pearls into my water spritzing bottle, and I've spritzed all over. I'm taking regular white cardstock and I'm just dipping it all over. So I'm going to heat set this just so I can make it all happen faster, but you can let it dry naturally. I'm going to layer up the inks. One of my favorite things about distress inks is the water reactivity, but also the fact that you can layer them up. It doesn't make the layer underneath muddy. I'm going to spritz this again. A little less water means I'm going to get more intense colors. So you can see as I dip that in, I'm picking up really intense colors, and it's just layering over the top. I did add a little more water to kind of even it out, and because this water has the perfect pearls in it, I'm going to get this cool shimmer. You can see some of the shimmery dots on there. I'm heating it on the front and back to dry it thoroughly and keep it as flat as possible. I'm placing it in my mini Misty stamping tool, and I've got my line stamp for the rose. I've inked up with Ranger Archival Jet Black ink, and the problem I'm having here is because the cardstock got wet, it's warped a little bit, it's popping up, and so what I've done is just taped it down a little bit at the back, make sure I can stamp it properly, and I'm going to just double stamp areas that didn't quite stamp very firmly and well the first time, and I can just remove that double-sided tape. I'm going to fussy cut this particular flower because I want to do the same technique for the leaves and pop them on separately. So by using the die, that would be a little bit trickier, so today I'm going to fussy cut, and I've got to be honest, this rose is quite simple to fussy cut by hand. The pieces are quite large, it's not super intricate, and you could even make this rose smaller by trimming off those outer petals. You could also do a little paper towel technique by stamping it twice, colouring it twice in whatever method you like. I've used a few this week, there's more to come, and you could layer up the centre. So you can see the shimmer there that's come from the perfect pearls, and I think now it's time for us to do the leaves. I'm using Twisted Citron, Cracked Pistachio, and Mowed Lawn. I'm using the mini ink cubes again, but like I said before, the ink inside the minis is exactly the same as inside the full-sized ink pads. Now, Perfect Pearls comes in various colours. The colour I'm using is called Perfect Pearl, so it can be a little confusing, but there you have it. I've dipped in my greens. I used a lot of water to get a light wash on this background, and I'm going to repeat the process just like I did with the rose so that I can get a little bit more intense colour. Look at that intense colour, lots of mowed lawn in that one, and I love the effect on this. And I was able to use the leftover paper from the first project because I knew that the leaves would fit. I'm just inked up most of the leaves, and I'm going to fussy cut those, but rather than cut them off like all the way across where the rose meets, I'm leaving some extra. It's a classic paper piecing technique. So I've got kind of a tab at the end of each leaf that I can apply double-sided tape or liquid adhesive, but I'm using double-sided tape. I'm going to apply the tape to it, and then like a puzzle, I can figure out where it fits on the rose and then pop that in underneath, and it's going to be a perfect fit. It works absolutely beautifully, and you'll see in the second example that I did over on the blog, I've actually done extra leaves. Now the background. Sometimes you want a specific kind of background. I wanted black and white. Did I have any black and white paper? No, I did not. So I've chosen to stamp my background all over. I've taken the thanks sentiment. I've put it right in the middle of my mini Misty, and I've stamped it. I moved it up 1 inch, stamped it, moved it up 1 inch, stamped it. You see where I'm going with this? So I've stamped it, and what I'm going to do now is move it down 1 inch. So just take note of where it comes to, move it down 1 inch, and because the stamp is in the center of my stamp positioning tool, it's not going to mush or put bends in that cardstock when it goes over the edge, which is bound to happen. So I've done again here, I've offset the thanks for the next row, and I'm just going to stamp it, move it up 1 inch, ink it up, stamp it, move it up 1 inch, ink it up, stamp it. You see the pattern here, and we do that until it gets all the way to the bottom. And you do want to make this run off the edge to make it look like an all over stamp, like an all over printed cardstock. My favorite thing about this technique is that you don't need to do a sentiment. The sentiment is done. I've done the other upside down because if I place the stamp too close to that left-hand side, when I move the cardstock, it will actually kind of mush it a little bit because it, so upside down works as well. You got to do what works for you, and this worked for me. So what happened was when I got to the end and I'd stamped it all and I had a look, even though that top sentiment I left the proper gap, it looks a bit bare, so I did restamp part of the thanks up in that top centerpiece. So I've trimmed this centerpiece, this A6 piece of cardstock down, just taking 1/4 of an inch off one short edge and one long edge, applied double-sided tape to the back of the sentiment stamp, check that the card's right way up, stick down the stamped panel, and then I can peel all the release paper off the back of the rose and stick that down as well. You can trim off the extra leaves that hang over the edge. You can use it if you want to, but you don't need to. Here is the finished card, and I've done an alternative card in different colors, and you can find the colors that I used and more details over on my blog, as well as another hot tip for getting more value from your stamps. If you are looking for painted rose stamps and dies in Australia, you can find them at dawnlewis.com.au. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're enjoying the series. I do hope you have a very crafty day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.